Like, so he's come preaching like repentance, and this is an apocalyptic narrative, right, of a coming judgment. And so it's kind of situated in that kind of idea. This is why also you've got this idea of like giving up all of your goods and then following him, because you've got the sense of urgency. Now's the time. Time is here. The time is now.
Yeah.
And so that for that specific situation, it it's like getting rid of stuff that's encumbering you from partaking in the mission, right? So like you've got other sayings in the Gospels like whoever doesn't hate their mother or their father or their brothers is not worthy of me, right? But if you take that saying, for instance, what some scholarship would say is they equate it to the priesthood, because in places like Deuteronomy 34, when Moses is giving the blessings for the nation, for the tribes, when it comes to Levi, there's a specific blessing in there that talks about when the Levi did not consider their father or mother, or maybe even brothers, is again employed in the text, in the narrative. So you already got it earlier in the Gospel of Luke, where it pops up again in Acts chapter 2. And so it seems to be tied together with the ideas of ascension. And so through that ascension, you've got ideas of elevation. And so he's placed at the right-hand side. And on that basis, even David now will call him Lord. Does that make sense?
Yes. Sorry.
Because if you look at the question, it's like, if David calls him Lord, how then can he be his son? Right?
Yeah.
Because you would think that the son would call the father Lord instead of the father calling the son Lord. Because, it's in terms of honor.
Yeah. I sort of remember the quote from the book, so I'm gonna just give it to you, and then you can go from there. So in the book I'm reading, it quotes a scholar. Which one off the top of my head, I don't know. I would have to tell you later. But
Okay.
he made the claim that sitting at the right hand of power in Psalms 110 equal co-regency with God.
Uh-huh. That wouldn't be out of the ordinary.
I mean, that's generally what the quote was about. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a psalm of exaltation, right? Whoever the figure is, they get exalted to the right hand, and then they're told to sit until their enemies are placed under their feet. So you're not only being exalted to that position, you're actually sitting in the presence of the Most High, right? You're not bowing. You're being asked to. You're being sat down, and that has implications. So it is an exalted position that the person is being exalted into. So the claim of like the Book of Acts is that obviously the Messiah, after his resurrection, ascended up and then sat at the right hand, and through that he's been exalted, and he's obtained that position. Okay, so I found this section. quite long. I'll read it out to you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's sitting comfortably. It has long puzzled scholars why Jesus is said to be standing, given that from Luke 22:69 we would expect the Son of Man to be sitting. In an attempt to take seriously the apocalyptic mystical context of this passage, Rowland has suggested that the standing posture is intended to limit the status of the Son of Man. This would be the implication of the famous episode in later rabbinic and Hekkelot texts, according to which Metatron is demoted from his seated posture to one in which standing avoids leading astray mortal seers, who would otherwise be tempted to treat him as a second power in heaven. Thus Luke has Jesus standing to avoid putting him on the same level as God. Whilst we have already argued that this seated posture is important for various Second Temple texts, the Lucan use of Psalms 110 and the Son of Man in 22:69, there are a number of problems with Rowland's interpretation of this text. First, it would be slightly irrelevant, if not distracting, to make the point at this juncture, as Stephen is being stoned to death for his attack on the temple institution. To give Stephen a vision in which Jesus, Son of Man, is actually subordinate to God hardly offers him encouragement at his last breath. Secondly, the parallel to the Lucan combination of the Son of Man taking his seat, Luke 22:69, and then being seen standing, Acts chapter 7, is found in the Ascension of Isaiah. In 9:35, the visionary sees the Lord, i.e. Christ, and the second angel, and they were standing. At 11:32, Christ is said to have sat down at the right hand of the great glory. Similarly, in the similitudes of Enoch, the Son of Man is at times sitting, and then there's a bunch of references, and at other times standing, and again references. As an alternative to Rowland's explanation and various others, there are two perspectives on the Son of Man standing which make better sense in the thrust of our study. Number one, first, we would concur with a growing consensus that the Son of Man standing is a fulfillment of the promised heavenly advocacy of those who confess Jesus' name, Luke 12:8-9. As does Stephen. Jesus, the Son of Man, stands in heaven as would a defendant or accusing witness in a Jewish court. Secondly, we suggest that the Son of Man standing is a posture appropriate to the angelomorphic being. In this context in particular, because it expresses the immortality and immutability of the one standing. It offers appropriate encouragement to the martyr who, though now dying, I'm going to change the page, will himself stand before the Son of Man, Luke 21:36, untouched by the power of death. He will die and rise again unscathed as did his master, the standing one. This is then one more of a number of close points of correspondence between the martyrdom of Stephen and the death of Jesus in the gospel tradition. There we go.